In another authentic hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the Dajjal will come for 40 days. The first day of which is like 1 year, and the second is like 1 month, and the third is like 1 week, and the rest will be like normal days of the year. And this fits in perfectly with other narrations that show that the Mahdi shall rule for 7 years. Let us now calculate the time frame of the Dajjal. Dajjal will stay for 1 year, plus 30 days, which is 1 month, plus 7 days, which is 1 week, plus 37 days, which is the remaining of the 40 days that the Prophet ﷺ said. That is 1 year and 74 days exactly, or 1 year and 2 months and 2 weeks. And this is just a small fraction of the 7 years that the Mahdi shall rule. So in the last portion of this time, or Allahu A'lam exactly when, we cannot say for certain exactly when, but sometime within the portion of these 7 years, for 1 year and 2 months and 2 weeks, the Dajjal will come and he shall wreak his havoc and terror in all of the world. In another hadith in Sahih Muslim, Jabir ibn Abdullah reports that the Prophet ﷺ said, "There shall always be a group from my ummah that shall fight upon the truth," meaning they shall always be defending the truth. ظاهرين, they shall always be apparent and clear, until the day of judgment, until Isa ibn Maryam comes down. And their Amir will say to him, so notice this is another reference to the Mahdi. Their Amir. Who is the Amir of the Muslims when Isa comes down? The Mahdi. And this hadith is in Muslim as well. Yet another reference to the Mahdi in the authentic books of Bukhari and Muslim. Their Amir will say to him, "Come, lead us in prayer." Isa will respond, "No. You are leaders over one another. بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ أُمَرَاء." Showing the respect of Allah to this ummah. This is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. Showing the respect that Allah has given to this ummah. So Isa ibn Maryam will come down and he will not be the imam of this prayer. In another hadith, the Mahdi will say to Isa ibn Maryam, "Come lead us in prayer." Isa ibn Maryam will say, "No, it has been called for you and you should lead it." So Isa ibn Maryam will pray behind the Mahdi. Isa ibn Maryam will pray behind the Mahdi, and this is something which is clearly reported in Bukhari and Muslim, even though the Mahdi is not mentioned by name. However, there is no question that these ahadith apply to him, and that is why this is the opinion of all of the commentators of hadith, such as Ibn Hajar, Ibn Kathir, Suyuti, Muhammad Anwar Shah al-Kashmiri, Siddiq Hassan Khan, and all the scholars who ever commented on these hadith, they all mention that the reference here is to the Mahdi. And in fact, in one version of this hadith, the same hadith of Jabir reported in Sahih Muslim, in another version reported in the Musnad of Al-Harith, which is another book of hadith, there is the additional phrase, فَيَقُولُ أَمِيرُهُمُ الْمَهْدِي. Their leader, the Mahdi, will say. And this is an authentic hadith, and it is the exact same hadith, except that it is not reported in Sahih Muslim. Realize that one of the jobs of the muhaddith, of the scholar of hadith, is to compile all of the various narrations of a hadith to see what different wordings exist. And so one of the benefits of compiling all of the hadith, perhaps you find a certain wording in one version of the hadith which is not mentioned in another, and therefore when we compile the narrations of this same hadith, in Sahih Muslim the wording is, "Their Amir will say." In another authentic hadith, with the same hadith, another version of it in the Musnad of Al-Harith, it says, "Their Amir, the Mahdi, will say." Now here, a person will ask a question. How is it possible that Isa ibn Maryam will be led in prayer by the Mahdi, even though Isa is a Nabi and a Rasul, and the Mahdi is merely a follower of the Prophet ﷺ? I mean, if you like, an average Muslim in the sense that he is not a prophet or a Rasul, he's not even a Sahabi. He is just a follower of the Ummah, a member of the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. There is no doubt that Isa is more noble and blessed than the Mahdi, and he is the one who will come and kill Dajjal. So how can he then pray behind the Mahdi? The answer to this, first and foremost, the wisdom is given by the Prophet ﷺ himself. This is an honor that Allah is blessing us with, the best and greatest Ummah, for we have the greatest Prophet and the most blessed book and the most perfect Sharia. Therefore, as a manifestation of that honor, one of the followers of the Prophet ﷺ shall lead another prophet in prayer. Likewise, secondly, Ibn Hajar, Ibn al-Jawzi, and others, they mention another wisdom, and that is that Isa ﷺ will allow the Mahdi to lead him in order to prove that he is now coming not as a prophet, but rather as a follower of a prophet. Therefore, he is allowing himself to be led by a leader of the Muslims